Thanks, Sean. We're going to record the meeting tonight, just so everybody's aware, so that folks who weren't able to attend tonight can still go to BCYF's website on boston.gov and access the recording, the meeting, and the information. So like I was saying, my name is Niall Murphy. I'm a project manager with the city's Public Facilities Department assigned to the Clougherty Pool project. I'm excited to be here tonight to share our updates and answer any questions you may have. Before we jump into the presentation, I would like to kick it over to the Commissioner of BCYF, Marta Rivera, to say a few words. Marta?
Hi, good evening and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the third meeting of the Clougherty renovation update. I'm glad to see the numbers are, we're nearly at 40 and we're just getting started. So I'm assuming everyone's just as excited as we are. It's a hot summer day. You could be doing far better than being on this call with us. So again, we appreciate it. I want to take a minute to acknowledge our BCYF staff who are on here. I see James Burke, the interim center director from the Charlestown High School Community Center, and Sandy Holden, our public information manager. Kate Hennigan, who's the program manager, who supports the Charlestown Community Center, in addition to several others in that region. If I forgot anyone else, my apologies. But again, just want to take a minute to thank everyone, and I will turn it over to my colleague. Am I turning it over to Carrie? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm turning it over to my colleague, Carrie Griffin, who's the Director of Public Facilities Department.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time this evening. It's a beautiful summer night, and the fact that you are choosing to spend your time with us, we want to make that time, we appreciate and value that time. So we want to make it very useful, and I think we have a robust agenda to get through this evening. I want to acknowledge my team, Niall Murphy, who is the project manager, Pat Mulvey Welsh, who is the assistant director for public facilities, but I also want to acknowledge and thank our amazing design team, Deborah, Agnes from Fenwick McCurdy, and Jonathan and Brad from Weston and Sampson. We're going to show you some beautiful designs tonight for the project that is currently out to bid, and give you an update on the project that we are starting for the demolition. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Niall.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Commissioner. I do, before we jump into the presentation, just want to acknowledge if there are any elected officials in the room. I believe Councillor Coletta has joined us. And if, Councillor, you'd like to say hello, please take the time to do so.
Thank you so much, Niall, and good evening, everybody. I just want to say thank you to BCYF and Public Facilities for their work thus far, pulling together this meeting and the opportunity just to say a few words ahead of the presentation. I do want to say thank you to the community organizers who have been working with us on this since day one. We were able to secure a generational investment of $30 million reflected in the capital budget this year, and proudly so, to have a pool that generations of Charlestown families can enjoy for years to come. And so I do look forward to reviewing the plans for the pool, receiving a detailed update on timeline of construction. I know that that's been something that folks have been asking me and would love to dive into the details on, just to make sure we are on track towards a year 2024 opening. In the interim, I have had conversations with Commissioner Rivera and Representative Dan Ryan about heat mitigation plans for Charlestown youth. You'll hear from BCYF about some of those plans, and I'm very excited to be partnering with them on some of those. Additionally, I am very excited to say that Representative Ryan and I have some irons in the fire, if you will, with trusted waterfront and community organizations to provide free opportunities for kids to enjoy everything our waterfront has to offer. The Boston Harbor and the Harbor Islands are really treasured assets that are largely underutilized, even though Charlestown is considered a community. So to provide more ways to beat the heat and enjoy the water, we are in active conversations and finalizing details for some special events for kids here in the community. Some more details to come on that in the next week or so. So just in general, I look forward to the conversation. I'm grateful for everyone's participation. And just know if I have to jump off, I don't think I will, but just in case, Elaine Donovan, who is my incredible staffer, will remain on the call and will review the details of the conversation with me later on. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Counselor. Appreciate the words. Are there any other elected officials on the call? Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Sorry. So this is the agenda for tonight. For tonight's meeting, we'll be providing an overview of the project schedule, followed by discussing the logistics for the demolition phase of the project. Then we'll show you renderings of what the interior of the bathhouse and the pool deck will look like. And then we'll open it up to questions and answers. We ask that you please not unmute yourself and ask a question in the middle of the presentation. It would be appreciated if you hold all questions and comments until the Q&A period if you want to ask them verbally. You can, however, type a question into the chat while we are presenting. We'll monitor the chat and we'll be sure to answer it. If you wish to ask a question during the Q&A period, we ask that you raise your hand using the raise hand function. Down on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a button that says reactions. If you click on that, there's a raise hand option, and I will call on you to unmute yourself to ask your question. And if we do not have an answer for you at this time, we'll take your contact information in the chat and I will get back to you. Next slide, please. Okay, project schedule. Next slide, please. So as you can see on this slide, for some of you that have been to past community meetings, you'll recognize this slide. So the project started at the end of last summer as a study, which is the first step in our project life cycle, where we established the criteria for the project along with the conceptual cost estimate. We then quickly moved into design, signing a contract with Fenwick McCready in December of 2022. As we've said from the beginning, this project had to be fast-tracked and expedited to try to meet our goal of having the pool open for summer 2024 with rented temporary bathroom facilities. So we condensed the design process from a typical 12 to 18-month design to roughly a 7-month design. We also made the decision to split this project into 2 phases to try to meet the schedule. The first phase is the demolition phase, which we put out for bid in April. We received bids in May and awarded the contract to Northern Contracting Corporation in June. Northern started mobilizing on site this week, and demolition construction is slated to last until October. The second phase of the project is the pool and pool deck reconstruction and the bathhouse renovation. We started the bidding process for that package in May and plan to have contracts awarded by September. Because this package is over $10 million, we're statutorily required by the state to go through what is called the Chapter 149 pre-qualification process, where we pre-qualify general contractors and subcontractors to ensure that they're qualified to bid on a project like this. This process typically takes 3 to 4 months to complete. During our first round of advertising for statements of qualifications, during our first round of advertising for statements of qualifications in June, we did not receive enough submissions for 8 different filed sub-bid trade categories. By law, we have to receive at least 3 submissions to move forward in the process. So this triggered the requirement for us to have to re-advertise for those categories. This is something that is out of our control, and it has now delayed our bidding schedule on this package by roughly 3 to 4 weeks. We quickly re-advertised this project last month to reduce the amount of time of delay, and are scheduled to receive the second round of statements of qualifications for those categories at the end of this week. Even if we do not receive enough submissions this time around, we won't have to advertise again for qualifications, so the bidding schedule should not be impacted any further. We expect to have contracts awarded by September, which will time up nicely with the expected completion of the demolition in October. So once we have a contractor on board, they will be focusing on the pool reconstruction starting in the fall to have the pool open by summer 2024. Again, the bathhouse will not be open for summer 2024, but will be open in summer 2025. Next slide, please. All right, so demolition logistics. So this slide's a little difficult to see in a presentation. There is a lot on it, but I'll walk through some of the main logistic details. We'll also use a highlighter so that you can see where I am talking about as I'm talking through logistics. So if you look to the northwest side of this slide, up by St. Martin Street, you can see there's a dashed red line there, which represents the construction fencing. So construction fencing will start at the driveway entrance to the park from St. Martin Street. It will run along the existing wrought iron fencing that separates the basketball courts from the Bunker Hill Street side of the park. So there will be no access from the Bunker Hill Street side of Doherty Park down the stairs to the basketball courts any longer once the fencing is complete this week. The fencing will also run from the right-hand side of the driveway down along the right-hand side of the basketball courts. It will cut across where the splash pad and swing set is, encompassing both of those areas of the park, which will no longer be allowed to be used given their proximity to the construction site. And then it will run along the perimeter of the pool down around the Medford Street side and back around the backside of the bleachers in between where North Mead Street is and the site. So the playground and the gazebo areas will remain open to residents during construction, as well as the pathway down to Medford Street. However, there will be a period of time where that pathway down to Medford Street will be closed off when we are demoing that side of the pool. There's just not enough space over there to keep pedestrian access down to Medford Street when we're doing demolition there. So we will put signs down on the pathway at Medford Street, letting residents know so they don't walk all the way up the pathway and up the hill and get there and have to turn around. So we'll be removing a piece of the wrought iron fence and the granite stone to create an accessible pedestrian access point to the park from St. Martin Street. This will be the main access point for pedestrians that want to still use the park, the pathways, the playground area, and the gazebo. It will be a temporary asphalt path that the contractor will put down, connecting the sidewalk on St. Martin to the existing pathway that you can see on the top of the screen. Tree protection will be put in place for all trees near the perimeter of the construction site. There is one tree that needs to be removed, which is where you can see on the highlighter there, near the stairs at the construction site on the side of the pool deck. We've coordinated with the Parks Department and received approval. We had the Parks arborist come out and inspect the tree. It's an ash tree, and it actually is showing the signs of decline, which may mean that there's an emerald ash borer in it. So it was recommended to be removed from the Parks arborist. No other trees are planned to be removed. There were 8 abutting property owners on North Mead Street that should have received letters to conduct pre-demolition surveys of their property, as well as to install a vibration monitoring device on the exterior of their property to monitor vibration levels caused during construction due to their proximity from the project. We don't expect any impact or damage to properties during this, but this kind of monitoring is a standard operating procedure for larger demolition projects in tight urban areas. And it's being conducted in coordination with the general contractor, Northern, with geotech engineers and our architects on the project. And what these monitoring devices are is they tell us in live time the vibration levels that are being caused from the demolition. And if they exceed a specified threshold, then the contractor will immediately cease demolition and reevaluate their method until vibration levels are within the acceptable range. So for site security, part of the main site security plan is the construction fence, which will be locked and secured at the end of each day. There'll be a gate up by the driveway entrance that will be closed and locked That's the main access point for vehicles. We're also installing security cameras at the site, and we will use on-site overnight security if needed. Pest and rodent control, so bait traps were actually set today by a pest control company, and those traps will be monitored and inspected every 2 weeks throughout demolition. Dust control, so all debris will be sprayed with water throughout demolition to control the amount of dust released. And the basketball courts, as we mentioned before, the basketball courts will be the main construction laydown area for vehicles and for access. And so the basketball courts will be lost during construction. We will be at the end of the project replacing the basketball courts. So there'll be new asphalt put down, it'll be painted, repainted, and new basketball courts will be, hoops will be installed. Next slide, please. So this is our transportation plan. It's not overly complicated, but as we all know, this site is a difficult site to access, given where the access point is on St. Martin Street. It's a tight dead-end street. So roughly 8 to 9 parking spaces will be lost on St. Martin Street. Signs will be going up any day now. We're just waiting on final approval from the transportation department. We were actually in touch with them today to try to get that pushed through and approved so we can get signs out there. So spots on the left side of St. Martin Street from Bunker Hill Street down to about number 8 St. Martin Street will be lost during construction. And then on the right side of St. Martin Street, spots up to the driveway and then one spot beyond the driveway next to where that pedestrian access point is going to be created will be lost. Construction start time is 7 a.m. It's the ordinance in the city. We definitely do not want to get into the practice of having to tow any residents, and we're trying to avoid that at all costs. We're going to be out there on site, talking to folks, letting them know, when to move their vehicles. And I know we've had some help already with the residents on St. Martin Street that's been greatly appreciated. They're helping just to let people know as well when they see them, and they know most of the cars in the area. So, a last resort will be towing. We don't want to do that, but we do need to have access to the site for trucks. Otherwise, they won't be able to make the turn into the site. So there won't be any parking impacts on Bunker Hill Street. No spots will be removed there. And we will have police details at the site during demolition when the heavy truck activity picks up. So we're estimating, and the contractor has estimated anywhere from around 100 to 150 truckloads is what it will take to remove all the concrete and material during demolition. So it will be an active site once we get in there. But like I said, we will be requesting each day during demolition a police detail there. All right, and now I'd like to turn it over to Deborah Fennick from Fennick McCready to show you renderings of what the interior of the bathhouse will look like.
Yes.
Deborah?
Thank you, Niall. And we're really excited to show you rendered views of what it will feel like to be inside the bathhouse. So after the plans, we'll get into those views. I wanted to start off by restating the design priorities that have guided the project all the way through the process. The first is to create a fully accessible, very welcoming facility for all ages and for all abilities. The second is to create a facility that feels safe, good sight lines, very open plan in the case of the bathhouse, open plan, good sight lines. The lifeguards from the building will have great views and access to the pool deck and the first aid space, which supplements that. The use of very durable and easy to maintain finishes was also a priority. To create a bathhouse that feels modern, and that has the amenities that you all gave us feedback on with the surveys and with the last 2 public meetings. So with that, we'll start off with the first floor plan. The plan has not changed much since the last time we all met. I'm just going to walk through it to remind you where spaces are. So we enter the building from the left side and then into the lobby. When you look to your left, you'll see a reception desk. And when you look to the right, you'll see the west stair, which is an existing stair that we are upgrading, and a brand new elevator, which will service this level, 2nd level, and the terrace level. And then we have, as we move to the right, at the top, we have the universal family rooms, which have 2 larger rooms, which have they have showers and they have baby changing in them. And then we have the women's room and the men's room, which again have showers, baby changing in them, and other amenities. Okay, so now let's, and then I wanted to point out also the north stair, which is, you'll access that stair from the pool deck. So that'll provide direct access to the 2nd level. All right, so let's start and let's enter the building with the perspectives. Okay, this is the entry side of the building. This facade faces the ball courts, just to give you orientation. The main door is that area, is the blue-green area that has a canopy, door that has a canopy over it. To the just to the left of that, you can see a gate, and beyond that, the pool deck and pools. So we're going to be doing an extensive exterior restoration of the building. We will be replacing all the doors and the windows. The facades are concrete, and so we are going to do a comprehensive repair and cleaning of those, and then a coating which will be colored, a color that is appropriate to the park setting, something that sets nicely in the park setting. We will be also waterproofing foundation walls. That's a technical piece. And we're also going to be replacing the roof. So basically the whole envelope of the building is going to be restored. Okay, so I think we can go to the next slide. So now we've entered through that entry door into the lobby. You look to your left and you'll see the reception desk. There's a feature on that desk that's going to be a lit wave motif blue panel to really draw your eye to it. Behind the reception desk is a digital display, can show the weather and important notices or other information for bathers. As you look just past the desk there, you can see the door that accesses the pool deck. Now, if we turn, next slide. So now we have just rotated a little bit. We're looking down on the right. That person is there, standing there waiting to go in the elevator. We can see into the men's room, which has the orange signage, the women's room, which has the purple signage, and the area that has the 4 family universal rooms, which is indicated with the green. I wanted to point out that for those of you who've been in the bathhouse, you might remember that the ceilings are pretty low. They're pretty low for a public space, and so we did everything we could to make them feel as high as possible. So we're painting that top roof, the deck, to the underside actually of the next level, and are using an aesthetic for the whole space, which creates clean and bright spaces. And we enliven that with color, which supports wayfinding. You can see the women's room, the men's room, very distinct colors. It also to enliven the space with colored fixtures, the ceiling, panels, acoustic panels, round panels there will have some color to them. And also the furniture that will be selected for this space. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Here we are Coming down that corridor and on our left is the 4 rooms, the universal family rooms, indicated with that green, the green column. And we look to the right, and there's the corridor down to the women's room. The floors are epoxy floors with with an aggregate that adds some interest to it, with some sparkle, with a light aggregate in it. And the walls are a glazed tile. All right, next slide. We're going to enter the women's room. So here we are. You can see back at the entry signage. There you can see the sinks in the background. Yes, and then we're also looking towards the toilet stalls off onto the right. And here you can see some of the utilities that are in the ceiling. They're all painted white. The ducts and conduit and other things that, fire protection that'll be in the ceiling, that will all be painted out white, so that, again, emphasizing that bright space. And let's go to the men's room. Next slide. Again, you can see the entry signage on the left, the sinks, and then in this case on the far right, we're looking at the shower stall. So each of the showers is in its own unit. Okay, next slide. I think we're going to go upstairs now. Okay, this is the second floor plan. You may remember that we added a community room to this space. We consolidated the men's and women's and universal locker rooms, rooms down on the first floor as much as possible, make that as tight as possible, so that we could gain some space on the second floor to create a community room. On this level, we also have concessions with a window to the community room, and then universal family rooms, universal/family rooms, which again have a toilet, sink, and shower in them, and baby changing. Then off on the right side, you can see the lifeguard's office. And there's a great view of the pool deck from this level. Okay, now let's walk through the space. Next slide. Okay, we are in the community room, looking towards the windows to the left of this are looking towards the pool deck and the pools. We have lowered the sills on these. They were about a foot higher, and we cut down the concrete so that there would be great views from these larger windows towards the pools. These are also operable windows, but they have child-safe hardware on them. They can't be opened any more than 4 inches. So they're very safe, but will provide fresh air, a significant amount of fresh air into the space. Again, epoxy floor. And in this case, on the perimeter walls, we have phenolic plywood panels that provide some interest in them with color. They're bright pattern, but it introduces some color. Now let's look in the opposite direction. So now we're looking back from where our last view was taken. Off to the left, you can see the window into the concession space. I think you can get I think somebody's getting a cup of coffee there. And a different view of a bigger, different view looking back, and you can see again the windows and the relationship. Sort of these are the larger, the ones facing the pool are all lowered, so we get a much larger, much better view, and also better daylighting in the spaces. And then if we take the west stair up one more level, or the elevator, we end up on the terrace level. I guess, yeah, there. So this space will be improved. Again, you can see the elevator that's accessing it, and the stair to the far right. We will be providing, replacing the railings to providing much higher guardrails for the space, and those will be, there'll be glass panels, so that there'll be the view to the Mystic River will be optimized from this location. There'll be furniture on this level, that will be similar to the furniture that Jonathan, when he goes through the landscape slides, you'll see in that. There's the stair here. There's also the existing stair that wraps around the building that accesses the terrace level and provides that second means of egress from that space. Okay, and the final bathhouse slide. Now here we're looking back. We're next to the accessible, fully accessible family swimming pool off on the right side of the slide. Looking back at the north facade, there are outdoor, you can see the outdoor showers where the highlighter is. The door to next to that is the door that goes directly up to the community room and concessions and the lifeguard space also. And then the door to the far right goes directly into the lobby. Okay, with that, I will pass it on to Jonathan to talk about the landscape.
Thanks, Deborah. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to just go through a few slides here to talk about some of the changes or additions that we've made since the last presentation. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Agnes. So previously, in the last two presentations, we've really focused on the pool deck itself. So we haven't talked about the wider revisions that we're making to the site itself in terms of accessing the pool deck and, as Niall mentioned, the existing basketball courts. So you can see on this slide the access points from St. Martin Street and how we get up and into the pool itself. Currently, there's no accessible route to the pool, and by accessible, I mean less than 5%. So we're going to regrade one of these walkways and make it accessible, so there is an accessible route up to the basketball courts and then further on more to the pool itself. As you heard previously, the basketball courts will be used for laydown space, for storage space by the contractor. So they will be resurfaced in some locations. They'll be slightly regraded again to make them more accessible, a little bit flatter. We're going to incorporate some new benches with companion seating because, again, as other people on the call have already mentioned, we want to make this site universally accessible and make everybody, whether they're 80 or 8, feel welcomed when they enter the Clougherty Pool and the surrounding site. Some other changes that we've made since the last meeting. Previously, we were showing a fixed tensile shade structure over the bleachers. Unfortunately, due to the existing bleachers that are remaining in this location, that wasn't possible because we'd have had to drill into those bleachers to install some footings. And once the structural engineers looked into that, it wasn't really feasible. So we now have 3 large commercial grade marine grade umbrellas that can be moved if required to accommodate the solar orientation of the sun during the day. We've also heard that the bleachers themselves are really popular. So what we've done is we've added a couple of new features to make them A, more accessible to people, and B, just to provide different variations of how people can sit and use these spaces. So if you look by the 3 umbrellas, we've added 2 new raised deck platforms, one of which incorporates, again, a companion seating space. So someone in a wheelchair can pull up there and have a conversation with people who are sitting on the deck. It also allows people to sort of lay down on there, whereas on the steps now, they're pretty shallow. So we've increased the sort of space for people to be able to use that how they so wish. As we move to the east, we're removing part of the bleachers there, and we're going to incorporate a raised viewing platform. So this is a platform that's accessed by a ramp with handrails on both sides. So someone in a wheelchair can come up that ramp, or if they're in a stroller, you can come up that ramp. And you can have unrestricted views of both pools. And then also, if you again turn to the east, you'll be able to see the Mystic and the park beyond. There are no railings up there. The fall zones do not require us to have railings. There will be what we're calling a small curb that prevents people in wheelchairs or strollers from going off the edge. But again, accessibility was key here, but also maintaining open, unrestricted views of the pool was also very important. And with that, you can go to the next slide, please. If people recall from the last rendered plan that we presented, we were showing slightly different colors. The reason why we've changed colors is that, one, we wanted them to be more in keeping with the facade of the building. We're trying to incorporate a little bit of color in terms of the blue, again, to match the facade of the entrances that are highlighted by a similar blue color, but also to carry that blue throughout the site, and again, to bring some visual interest to the deck. We went with grays, light grays, and kind of off-white cream colors, because, as again mentioned previously, SRI values and urban heat island effects are very important to this site. So by using colors that reflect the heat rather than maintain the heat is a much better experience for people when they use the pool deck. As I mentioned, we still have some tables and chairs that are located close to the bathhouse. We had to reduce the number there slightly to accommodate the outdoor showers that people will use. There's 5 in total. 3 of them will have a fixed umbrella, and then 2 will be left open, so people can sit in the sun if they so desire. We also looked at the seating that is located on the northern side of the pool deck and also on the eastern side of the pool deck. Previously, that was a similar product, which was a wood lounger, but you'll see in the next couple of slides, this lounger is now has dual purpose. So it allows people to sit and look into the pool, or it allows you to sit and look out into either the playground or to the fabulous views of the Mystic River to the east. And then they're flanking those on the eastern edge of the pool are a couple of planters that again will have low maintenance perennials, just to provide a little bit of color and texture throughout the season for the pool. And they again are surrounded by wood seating. So again, lots and lots of different opportunities for people to sit and gather in larger or smaller groups if they so desire. And we're also thinking about the material that people will be sitting on. So we're going with wood rather than metal again for that solar orientation. We don't want people sitting on one seat. So again, the wood helps to sort of maintain the coolness when people sit there. Also, I'll just finally touch upon, again, a big thing that we heard at the public meetings was that people like to bring their own chairs down here. So beneath the trellis structure to the east, there's an open space there that, again, if someone's in a wheelchair or stroller, they can sit under there unrestricted. Or if you want to bring your own table, your own chair down there, you can place it beneath there and still be in the shade. Next slide, please. This slide just highlights the colors. So this is the pool deck itself. So as I mentioned, we're trying to go with creams and light grays, and then a touch of blue again to help accentuate the entrances to the pool, but then carry that color all the way through the pool deck. So there's some consistency and visual interest. And what you'll notice with the different types of paver sizes that we're using, it creates spaces within the space. So we didn't want the sort of same monotonous pavers going all through the deck itself. We wanted to break that up and create some visual interest and just have people be able to sit in different spaces or gather in different zones should they wish to do so. Next slide, please. This shows how the breakdown of those pavers look as you come out of the building. So as I mentioned, the 2 blue panels help to emphasize the entrance to the reception sort of pool area, and then the other one to the pool deck. The lower door is to the storage space, so we didn't want to highlight that. But again, this just shows how those colors break down and how the movement and the spaces are sort of broken up visually by the larger and smaller format pavers. Next slide, please. And then this is the space between the 2 pools. So on the left is the 0 entry kids pool, and then on the right is the lap pool. So again, that blue band for consistency coming through the pool deck itself. You'll see on the lower portion the raised platform that again has the same pavers on it for consistency. And then you can see how we've broken up again the space by using larger and smaller format pavers. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we want universal access throughout the pool. Accessibility is key. We want everybody to feel welcomed and feel inclusive. So this slide just highlights the areas where we have accessible seating for all to use. So there's 4 different locations. Again, the pool deck is entirely accessible, so it's all graded at less than 2% in any one direction. So, you know, it's a great place for anybody of any ability to be able to sit, gather, and use the pool itself. Next slide, please. This slide just highlights the furniture. So the top image shows the seating without the umbrella, and then the lower one shows the option with the fixed umbrella. But you'll notice here that with the 4 seats, there are 2 spaces on either side. Again, those are for people with wheelchairs or a stroller that you can bring them up to the table and they feel part of the conversation and inclusive of people who are sitting there with no mobility issues. Next slide, please. This shows the seating that I was talking about previously. So as you can see, the top image is top and bottom images showcase these planters that incorporate seating around the edge. So they're a modular system that fit together. And, you know, like I said, once we put the top one and the bottom one together, they create a full 360 seating area around these planters. Again, we'll incorporate perennials and grasses for movement and texture and color. Beneath the trellis system, and then also on the eastern edge of the pool, is the second from the top image seating. So again, wood for consistency throughout the site. And as I mentioned, it allows people to sit and look into the pool or sit and look out of the pool should they so desire. And then finally, just as we enter the site close to the entrance of the building, we're just going to incorporate some seating at that entry that again has some small pockets for planting behind. Next slide, please. And I think this is my final slide, and this just talks about the umbrellas that are movable that I mentioned previously. Again, marine grade, can withstand elements, tornado, you know, very strong winds, very hardy. And then the 3 colors below are just the sort of colors we're thinking about for the shade sail itself, again, to try and bring some consistency with the blue that's in the pavers and the blue that's on part of the building facade. And with that, I'll hand it back to Niall. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Deborah. I should also mention that along with the meeting recording, we will be posting this presentation on BCYF's website for the public to view as well. I know sometimes in a presentation mode, it can be difficult to see what we are talking about as we're presenting. So you'll have the ability to look at the presentation on your own device and zoom in on areas of interest. Thank you, Sandy. Sandy put the link in the chat. So at this point, we'd like to open it up for any questions or comments. And like I mentioned earlier, if you can use the reactions button down on the bottom of the screen, you'll see a raise hand feature. And I will call on you after you raise your hand. Okay. It looks like Nora has a question.
Hi, yes. So thank you for the presentation. I am part of the Friends of Doherty Park, and we're currently working with the city on getting a conservation grant to restore some of the Olmsted Park and just cleaning it up. And my question is about the seating you're putting next to the basketball courts, which I think is great, you know, more seating, but I'm interested in is what type of seating you guys are going to be looking at, because we are trying to look at restoring some of the original benches, and so I just want to make sure that fits in with what we're trying to do for the larger park. So I don't know if there's somebody that could reach out to us or I could connect with, so that we're all on the same page as we try and put in. We have a 3-year plan to be restoring different sections of the park, and we can include that.
Yeah, that would be me. You can reach out to me, and we'll, you know, gladly have an open dialogue about, you know, the benches that we're going to install there. Obviously, if there's a standard for the park itself that you want to maintain, then we'll continue to do so. So I can put my email address in the chat, so just send me an email and we can start talking.
Terrific. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nora.
Now it looks like Helen has a question.
Helen, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. It was wonderful to see this. I grew up swimming in that pool, so it's just great. I just have a question, and you may have talked about it, and it's probably completely impractical, but you know, right behind the bleachers are all those trees. You know, a lot of them are weeds and everything. But I just have always wondered. The bleachers are always so hot, and I understand, you know, there's going to be umbrellas and everything, but I wondered if there was any way of having any vegetation around the pool itself. So just curious.
So we are proposing to plant some new trees behind the bleachers in the space that's part of the site itself. I believe there's some trees in there now that will have to come down as part of the wall or the bleacher work that's going to go on there. So we are proposing to put a combination of some flowering trees and some shade trees back there that for the most part will be also native to the local environment.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's beautiful.
And just on that, we're not certain yet what will have to be either trimmed back in that area for the reconstruction project. So that's something that we'll update the community on, but we're trying to limit the amount of trees or shrubs in that area that we have to either trim or remove. James, go ahead.
Hey, I don't have a question. I just want to, you know, as the representative of the neighborhood council for that area, I just want to thank you guys for all the work that you've done. I think you've provided a very substantial and, you know, complete overview of this project. And it's unfortunate what happened, but it seems that you guys are working your best to you know, mitigate the issues, and I just want to thank you guys. So thank you.
Thanks, James. I appreciate that. Colleen, go ahead.
Hi there. Thank you so
Hi.
much for this update. It's awesome. I just want to compliment the entire team. The interior renderings are really incredible given the state of the building right now, just to see what it could be. So thank you for this, really, truly. I just had one question that we continue to hear from our neighbors, and that is timing in the summer of 2024. If we could kind of get more specific on that and maybe, you know, have a date that we can all be working towards. I think it'll allow for kind of a, you know, a little bit of accountability on all sides. I know from a community standpoint, we want to make sure we're getting you all the information you need to act. But if we could get more specific, I think that would help. We're just getting a ton of questions.
Now, do you want me to take this or do you want to take it? It's fine.
Sure, you can jump in, Carrie. I'll fill in after.
Thanks, Colleen, for the question. And we, you know, we're trying to get this so that we can get this turned over to the community with the temp facilities on half the basketball court for the summer of 2024. Right now, I'm going to say we are on schedule. We are having issues with procurement, as Niall had mentioned from the onset of at the start of the meeting. But I don't think it's anything we cannot mitigate or recover from. So right now we are hoping that you will be in here celebrating the 4th of July next year in the pool area. That's our goal, to turn it over so that you have, you know, July 1st on for the pool. if for any reason something happens, that we are, worried about something, or, we hear about a delay in equipment or anything, like we're actively looking at this right now to make sure that anything that is going to be problematic for that date, that we're in front of it. We are having an issue with procurement. Not a lot of people bid this project on the pre-qual, but we are mitigating that too. So, as soon as we have completed the procurement process, we're fine if you want to meet as a smaller group with the Friends of Clougherty and give you an update, or have another community meeting. This is a very transparent process. If we're concerned, we're going to let you know that we're concerned. But right now, I'm saying we can get this done for the July holiday.
Thanks, Carrie. And yeah, we feel like we can mitigate some of the time and recover a bit in contract execution. We're going to look to, potentially work longer days, fill Saturdays with some work to get this done in time. And when we say a July opening for the public, that actually really means for us as the project team that the pool's complete in June, because we need at least 3 to 4 weeks for ISD inspections to get a certificate of occupancy. We need to get BCYF staff on site, familiar with the site, comfortable with the site, adopting the areas that the check-in desk is going to be, and things of that nature. So, like we said from the beginning of this project, it's a very tight timeline for us, but we're still confident and we feel like we're on schedule that we can meet it. Courtney, go ahead.
Hi, this is Steve Brophy and Courtney Brophy here. We're on Woods Place, just next to the pool. I'm pleased to see that you guys have the vibration monitoring equipment. Some of our neighbors received the letter in the mail. I was just looking to see if you guys had some more information or could produce like more of a detail on when some of the heavy demolition is going to be happening, like whenever that becomes available. And it's probably like maybe day by day or week by week, but just a little bit more information on the demolition and when there's going to be like loud noises, because there's lots of babies on North Mead Street Court, babies on Woods Place. So just trying to plan around that, and if we should be out of the house on certain days and things like that.
Thanks for the question, Steve. I appreciate it. We're looking at the end of the month, first week of August to start heavy demolition. There's abatement work that needs to take place, as well as some plumbing and electrical shutoffs that we need to do out on the site. So we're looking closer to the end of July for the heavy demolition, but there's going to be activity on site for the next few weeks, but it won't be that noisy, heavy demo that we've talked about.
Okay. And then if there is like a schedule and more information on that, will be on the website. Will you guys post it there?
We can look to do that. We'll be on site pretty much every day moving forward. So you could always come over, and I'll leave my email in the chat as well. If you wanted to contact me, and I can give you notice.
Okay, thank you, Niall. And just want to also say that you guys did a very nice job. This is comprehensive. The presentation looks great, and we're excited to see it when it's all done.
Great. Thanks very much for that. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I just want to say thank you to all of the community members for their participation over the last 7 months in this project. I feel like the community process has been beneficial both from the project team's end and also hopefully from the community's perspective. We're trying to be as transparent as possible and be as collaborative as possible throughout this process and this project. And so thank you very much for that and for the continued partnership, and thanks to our team for all the hard work they're putting in behind the scenes. Kerry or Commissioner Rivera, any last words?
No, I just want to thank everyone, the community, the project team, really great job. And I think this is a result of working collaboratively together and listening to what the community asked for and needs. So I think this is going to be a fantastic project. We're really excited about it. I don't know if anyone, please go over and see the East Boston Paris Street Pool we just finished and the Curly Community Center. They both are amazing, and the community is, you know, on top of the moon with excitement on the facilities that we turned over. So really grateful for all your participation and collaboration. And yeah, with that, I'll leave it at that. I don't know, Mata, if you have anything.
I could not have said it better myself. So thank you, Director Griffin. Thanks, folks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Goodbye, y'all.